This video covers the fourth section of classical argument, the proof section. The proof section contains your arguments, which involve reasoning and authority. Although it is where logos seems most at home, an appeal to ethos is often welcome, and an appeal to pathos is not unknown here. The authority that the proof section uses is often in the form of quotations. Quotations are extensive in the background section, the proof section, and the refutation section of a classical argument, but perhaps the proof section often has the most extensive framing of quotes. Let's look at how that framing works in a body paragraph of a research paper, and we'll start with a topic sentence. The Western media's obsession with female thinness and dieting is reaching beyond its target audience. Increasing numbers of women across the globe are being led to see themselves as fat and in need of a diet, according to feminist philosopher Susan Bordeaux. Citing the islands of Fiji as a case in point, Bordeaux notes that until television was introduced in 1995, the islands had no reported cases of eating disorders. In 1998, 3 years after programs from the United States and Britain began broadcasting there, 62% of the girls surveyed reported dieting. Bordeaux's point is that the Western media is spreading the cult of dieting to remote places across the globe. Ultimately, the culture of dieting will find everyone, regardless of where she lives. So we'll take this sort of step by step, as it's color-coded here, to show how this quote is framed in an argument essay in a body paragraph. Of course, it starts with a topic sentence, states the part of the argument addressed in the proposition. Western media's obsession with female thinness and dieting is reaching beyond its target audience. Then the speaker's basic position related to that topic. Increasing numbers of women across the globe are being led to see themselves as fat and in need of a diet, according to, and there's the speaker's name and qualifications. It's often good to put that toward the end of a sentence so it doesn't hog that initial space and keep you from having good chain sentences. And then rolling right into the quote here with a lead-in for context, citing the islands of Fiji as a case in point. Bordeaux notes that, that's a good lead-in. Here you're integrating your quote into your own syntax, and the quote itself is in bold black font. Following the quote is a summary or a restatement of the quote. Bordeaux's point is, and that of course signals that we're about to get a summary, or at least a restatement, that the Western media is spreading the cult of dieting to remote places across the globe. And then a concluding sentence, the paragraph's concluding sentence, which contains a bridge between the speaker's quote and the part of the argument addressed in the paragraph. The culture of dieting will find everyone, regardless of where she lives. Now, your quotes don't all have to be so framed, and even when you frame them, they don't have to have all of this going on, but you do need to have a number of framed quotes in your paper. You'll find that when you find a really good quote, that it will often take up an entire body paragraph to frame it well. Here's a list of templates that you can use in framing quotes in a body paragraph. The first part are templates for introducing quotations, and the second part, some templates for explaining quotations after the quote. So the first section of these comes before, and the second section comes after a quote as you frame it. These templates are found in the document attached to this assignment called Classical Argument Stages and Their Templates. We're going to focus on 2 body paragraphs in the proof section of the model paper, the first of which does a nice job with the same framing that you saw in the dieting paragraph just now, and I've used the same colors to highlight the same aspects of that framing. The second paragraph I'll show you is where you're just going to be working through a concept, and it's not going to be exactly framed, but I want to show you how to mix small quotes in with some paraphrasing to do that. So this first paragraph here leads in with a concluding sentence from the previous paragraph. Our civic equality, therefore, cannot be accompanied by civic detachment. And then we have a topic sentence, as the note to this says, stating part of the argument addressed in the proposition. It's difficult for modern Americans to associate individualism with a centralized state, which a tyranny necessarily brings. Now, the stuff that's not color-coded, I just added. You don't have to do exact framing this exact way. It's a very flexible way of dealing with quotes, and I decided to throw in some extra information here. Indeed, we see our current politics as a contrast between what we consider to be these opposites: a party of individual rights, today's conservatives mostly, and a party of central government, today's liberals mostly. And now the red, which stands for the speaker's basic position related to the topic. But a government built merely to secure individual rights and a government of centralized power are two sides of the same political coin minted during the French Revolution, comma, and now we're going to get the speaker's name and his qualifications, according to 20th century conservative political theorist Robert Nisbet. And then we have a lead-in for the quote's context in purple. Nisbet's analysis gives an historical foundation to much of what we've already heard from Tocqueville and Arendt. So I'm suggesting that we've already had this argument made for us by de Tocqueville and Hannah Arendt. Colon, and then here comes the quote, the combination of social atomism and political power, which the French Revolution came to represent, proceeded ineluctably from a view of society that centered on the individual and his imaginary rights at the expense of the true membership and relationship of society. And now, after the quote, I'm going to summarize or restate the quote. To reframe Nisbet's words, the true memberships and relationships of society, small local civic practices, will defend us from the extremes of social atomism and imaginary rights on the one hand and political power on the other. We forget that even our political term right and left, as well as the absurdly narrow political spectrum that these terms suggest, have their origin in revolutionary France. However, the right-left spectrum would collapse with a return to face-to-face civic engagement, advocated, as we've seen, by thinkers on the political left, i.e. Solnit, and right, i.e. Nisbet. And now the concluding sentence, which contains a bridge between the speaker's quote and the part of the argument addressed in the paragraph. Our everyday simplistic political categories mask how an overemphasis on the individual and a centralized state go hand in hand. The next paragraph I want to show you is one in which I don't really frame quotes as much as I work through a concept that I found in one or two books, one by Jefferson and one by Hannah Arendt, who writes about Jefferson. And you can see by how I've highlighted the paragraph's quotes that I use mostly short quotes worked into my own syntax. All of the quotes, even that long one, is worked into my own syntax. But I don't just do a block quote. I chop it up, and I'm trying to highlight the things that work for my argument the best here. So we'll just go through this rather quickly. This removal of the citizen from civic and political life, which began to occur following the nation's ratification of the federal Constitution, frightened Thomas Jefferson. After he retired from the presidency and began to reflect in his mountaintop home at Monticello, Jefferson summed up what Hannah Arendt calls, quote, his most cherished political idea, close quote, colon. So those are Arendt's words. And now we have Jefferson's words. Divide the counties into wards. He envisioned America divided into, quote, elementary republics, quote, quote, close quote, which would resemble the direct participation of the New England town hall meetings, which he admired and which, he said, helped, quote, throw the whole nation into energetic action, close quote, before and during the American Revolution. America, in this respect, would return to the spirit of 1776, colon. Jefferson, quote, expected the wards to permit the citizens to continue to do what they had been able to do during the years of revolution, namely to act on their own and thus to participate in public business as it was being transacted from day to day, close quote. Each ward would be small enough, about 100 men, Arendt reasons, so that all interested citizens would deliberate and decide matters of local civic importance. Government, at least local government, would again be by the people and not just by their representatives. I didn't put that in highlight because that's Lincoln's words, famous words from the Gettysburg Address. So that's a way to work through a concept by combining short quotes, mostly short quotes, and paraphrasing. It's not a framed quote per se, but it's a good use of quotes. For more information on the proof paragraphs and to get hold of those templates, go to our document, Classical Argument Stages and their Templates, which is attached to this assignment. Thank you so much for watching.